Hi, students. I am so glad you're here today. Aren't you so excited to be learning about word processing? Yeah, okay, you don't have to answer that question. But, anyways, our goal today is to define word processing and to discuss skills necessary to create a professional document. So, follow along and answer the questions on the form as we go along. Siga y responda las preguntas en el formulario. Pause el video según sea necesario. Let's go. All right, so we're going to talk about word processing versus desktop publishing, talk about some tools used to create, edit, and format your document, and then finally talk about parts of a flyer. So, what is word processing and what is desktop publishing? What's the difference? So, look at these two documents. What do you notice between these two documents? If I can get it out. Okay, so you might be saying, okay, word processing just looks like words. And then desktop publishing, notice there's some color and there's also pictures. So for word processing, it's going to be text-based documents. So like a research paper. With desktop publishing, you're going to combine text and images to create documents. So we're talking about like flyers or brochures. Here are some examples of word processing documents. So, a letter or a memo, a report or a research paper. So, notice this side is all just text. But then we come over here to desktop publishing. What do you notice? Ta-da! I see pictures and colors, and it looks really interesting. So, you have things like flyers, newsletters, posters, and even brochures. So let's talk about some tools that you can create, edit, and format your documents. What are some commands that you can use to edit and format a document? What are some tools that you already know about? Hi, it's me. I was just giving you a second to think about it, but let's go. Okay, so one of the things that you can do is you can change the font. So these are examples of font. Font is the size, style, and design of text. If you come over here, you'll see that I can also increase my font or change the font size. So font size is measured in points. So you can see this little thing right here, 72 points equals an inch. You might need to know that for later. So I can change my font color, and my font size to enhance the look of a document. I can also edit my document or make changes to my document by changing the alignment. So alignment is going to be how my paragraph or my objects or my tables are positioned horizontally or vertically on a page. So here are some examples of alignment. You got left, center, right, and justified. So that just means your text goes all the way from one margin to the next. So straight from the left all the way over to the right. Okay, you can also edit your document by adding a border. And let me just tell you, anytime that you are working on a document and you're like, what is missing? Most of the time, it's going to be a border. That border can make your document look completely different. A border is the lines around the page, or text, or cell, or table. So a border is going to be the lines around the page. You can also spice up your document by adding color. So you can use a shading or fill. So you see that little paint bucket, that's shading and fill. It makes it easier for you to change the background colors of a cell or a table or a shape, etc. Something else that I really love is organization. So to organize the document or make it easier to read, you can use what's called bullets and numbering. So these are bullets, and this is numbering. So it allows me to create an outline or itemized list with icons or numbers for my information. So these are all examples of ways that we can edit or change our document. Alignment, adding borders, shading and fill, and also bullets and numbering. Now, whenever we're thinking about maybe typing like a research paper, or maybe I'm just needing to adjust my spacing to make it easier, to make my text easier to read, I'm going to come over to the Home tab, and then I'm going to look in the paragraph group to find line and paragraph spacing. This allows me to choose how much space appears between my lines of text. So, for example, let's say you're working on a research paper. What is going to be your standard spacing for a research paper? Did you say double spacing? Yep, right. So 2.0. So you can change your spacing by clicking on this icon here. And here's what you can notice. Here's the difference. So the smaller the number for your spacing, the smaller the amount of space is going to be in between each line. So if I'm looking at double spacing, here's that amount of space that's going to be in the line versus just single space. So sometimes here's what I use as kind of a cheat code. If I need to fit more text onto a page, I'll just use single spacing. That's something that may help you later in life. You never know. Okay, so also here's something else that we can do. Depending on the type of document that we have, we can also change the orientation. So orientation, there are two types of orientation that you will find in Microsoft Word. There's going to be portrait and then also landscape. So when I think about portrait, I think about the main ways that I hold a phone when I get ready to take a picture, which is another word for portrait. So that's going to be the vertical direction. So the document is going to be taller than it is wider. Now, if I'm thinking about doing something maybe like a calendar, I'm probably going to use landscape. And that's when the document is wider than it is taller. And when I'm thinking about the land, I walk on land, it's horizontal, which kind of makes me think of landscape. I don't know. That's how I remember it, but you might have to come up with your own way to remember it. So portrait is going to be taller than it is wider. And then landscape is going to be wider than it is taller. And here are some examples here. Portrait, landscape. One of the other things that I asked you about on your document was my views. So views are going to be helpful whenever you're thinking about how am I going to be using this document. So a view allows me to change how the document looks on my screen. So you'll have 3 different views in Microsoft Word. You'll have read mode, which makes it easier to just focus on it as if you were reading a book. Makes it easier to focus on the document as if you were reading a book. That's read mode. And then you also have print layout, which is what will allow you to see what the document will look like when it's printed out. So this is going to be your normal mode. Whenever you open up Microsoft Word, it's going to open into print layout. And then you'll have web layout. So you would use this if you were going to be publishing something to the web, for example. But it allows you to see what your document is going to look like in whatever state it needs to be in when the product is finished. So let's say that we've used these various tools to edit and format our documents. We've enhanced it with our different alignments, our shading and fill, etc. Before we finalize our document, we want to do a few things. So of course we want to do a print preview. Print preview allows us to see what that document is going to look like when we print it out. So that way we can know if we need to make any changes before we print it. Sometimes maybe our text goes onto another page and we need to adjust something slightly. So print preview has saved me a lot of time. Okay? Print preview has really helped. So you want to do your print preview before you actually print it. That way you're not wasting paper. And then of course, use your spell and grammar check. Spell and grammar check. If you see the red squiggly lines, what do you need to do? Right click and correct it. Same thing with the blue lines. That's your grammar check. And so spell check and grammar check, they're there to help you. Use it. All right, so now that we've talked about all those different tools that we can use in order to create and format our document, let's talk about what we're going to be creating in Microsoft Word first. We are going to be creating a flyer. So what is a flyer and what does a good one look like? So a flyer is going to be either paper or it can be digital, and it's going to advertise an event or product or provide us some type of information. So in our instance, we are going to be using a flyer to promote our mobile business. So let's take a look at two different flyers. Which flyer do you think is better and why? This one, the one on the left, or this one, the one on the right? I'll give you a second to answer. What did you say? Really? Okay, here's why I would say the one on the right is better. To me, the text flows a lot better. It's more organized. I can see the key information really easily. And they've also emphasized the benefits for me. So if I'm somebody walking by a flyer, I want to be able to recognize what is the key information here? What are the benefits? Why would I want to stop and read this flyer? So when you get ready to create your flyers or when you get ready to create your documents, whatever it is, you want to think about how am I going to catch the eye of an audience? So to me, this one works out a lot better because it's more organized. It has different colors in there to capture our eye. And to me, it's easier to read. Go, bum, 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 this one's a winner. All right, so let's think about what can we do to create an appealing flyer. I'm going to think about my audience first of all, because your audience is going to help determine what your flyer looks like. So I would not create the same exact type of flyer for a 5-year-old as I would for my parents, for example, somebody my parents' age. So you have to think about who are you creating the flyer for. My information on that flyer also needs to be brief. We don't need to have super long paragraphs. It needs to be easy to read, but very informative. Organize your information. Use the bullet points when needed. If you need to divide out your information, you can most definitely do that. Emphasize the key information. How can we emphasize key information? You can maybe underline it. You can bold it. You can change the color of it. And make sure your information flows. Do not leave huge gaps of empty space. Do not try to fit everything onto one page. Okay? And a lot of times I'll say, ask for feedback. What does somebody else think about the document you created? That'll be helpful to you. Make sure you use colors that relate to the topic, so you also want to be consistent. Don't use fonts that are hard to read, and don't use colors that are hard to read with each other. You do want to make sure that you have a call to action and also provide contact information so that somebody can know how to follow up with this information. So if I'm talking about my mobile business, I want them to know where they can visit me at. They can know what my social media is. They can know what my website is, my phone number. So things along those lines. I want to make sure that I'm giving them good information, but I'm still brief. And I want to make sure that I take my time with it. I want to make sure that I proofread, do my spell check, grammar check, and that I'm not just randomly placing words and pictures on the document. I want to be strategic with it. So sometimes when I get ready to create documents or flyers, I look at examples first, things that look really good, and then I sometimes model my work after those things that look really great. So here's some key parts of a flyer that you'll want to use to help your flyer look really great and have good information. So you're going to have a headline. So this is going to capture the reader's eye. This is going to be the main purpose of the flyer. So this one is talking about building, create with a heart, build with a mind. Okay? We build your dream home. So this is basically going to be what is the flyer about. Then you're going to have your body text. So this is going to give us some information. Also, bulleted or a number list is going to make it easy for you to read some information. So it organizes your information, makes it really quick to read important points. You can also include a call to action, which is going to be important. So maybe directing somebody to your website or to a phone number or using something like a QR code, and then providing them with contact information so they can know how to get in contact with you. Images. Oh, I love to look at pictures on flyers. I just don't want to see a flyer with a lot of text. Put some pictures on there, but not too many. Okay. So some things that we can incorporate. Color with shading and fill. Our headline. What's going to be the topic of this flyer? What needs to capture our eye? How do we know what's going on with this flyer? I need to include important body text or information. And if I have a lot of information or if I just want to create a more appealing look, I can use a bulleted number list. I'm going to have my call to action, provide contact information to the readers, and incorporate images in my flyer. Something that you'll see a lot of times if you pick up a magazine or you pick up a flyer, you'll notice something that's called a Z pattern. So a Z pattern is basically what's going to cause the reader's eye to start in the left-hand corner, work the way over to the right, down the page to the left corner, and then back over. So basically, this is going to help the flow of your information on the flyer and encourage somebody to read the entire flyer to find out the most important information, all the important things about this event or product, whatever it is. So Z pattern will be helpful to you when you're thinking about the design and layout of your flyer. All right, well, that was a lot of information. But hopefully, you took your time with it. You're welcome to pause as you needed to. You can always rewind, go back, answer whatever questions that you need to. So, we are going to start practicing in Microsoft Word. You're going to be creating your own flyer after you follow along with some steps with me. So, you're going to be doing things like inserting text in paragraphs, formatting text in paragraphs, and then also just making sure that you configure and create your documents in different sections. All right, people. Well, thank you for listening, and we're going to follow up with our next assignment, which is going to be Word Chapter 1, step by step. Hey, enjoy your day.